Welcome back to my YouTube channel where every coin has a story and every story could change your life. Today, we are diving into one of the most mind-blowing discoveries in the world of coin collecting and historical anomalies. A simple 1981 D1 cent coin, something you'd expect to find at the bottom of a drawer or stuck between couch cushions, has rocked the entire numismatic community. And not just because it's old or rare. No. This particular coin has become the center of one of the most astonishing stories ever told, a journey through secrecy, treasure hunts, lost archives, and a shocking final valuation that landed this humble penny at a staggering worth of $680 million. Sit back, because this story goes deeper than you could ever imagine. It all began in a dusty box inside the estate of a man named Ronald Westley, a Denver-based machinist who had passed away with no known family. The house was small, filled with decades of clutter and strange trinkets. Ronald had always been considered an eccentric by his neighbors, the kind of man who preferred machines to people, and who rarely left his home. When the city came to inventory his belongings for auction, they weren't expecting to find anything of significance. But deep in the basement, behind a wall that had been drywalled over sometime in the late 1990s, they uncovered a hidden room. Inside were thousands of small containers, each labeled meticulously with dates, mint marks, and obscure references. Among them, resting in a velvet-lined case and sealed with layers of wax and lead, was a coin labeled simply, 1981 D, error, do not sell. That label alone sparked curiosity. The coin appeared normal at first glance, but as the estate handlers began cataloging items, they flagged the penny for further inspection due to the peculiar caution in its label. Eventually, it was sent to the Denver Numismatic Research Institute, a lesser-known but highly respected organization focused on North American coinage. What they discovered there would trigger a worldwide sensation. The coin was not only an error coin, but one of the most complex and controversial minting accidents ever recorded. Upon closer examination under a scanning electron microscope, experts found that the coin's surface bore microscopic inscriptions, unlike anything previously seen on a US coin. Not visible to the naked eye, the inscriptions consisted of phrases in Latin, Greek, and even some ancient Egyptian symbols. Hidden within the coin's surface, engraved using some unknown technique, were references to obscure economic theories, alchemical formulas, and even what appeared to be a primitive form of a blockchain code. Decades ahead of its time, historians and coin experts were baffled. How could a penny from 1981 contain such advanced and cryptic engravings? The engravings weren't done post-mint either. Metallurgical tests confirmed they were part of the original stamping process. The implications were staggering. It suggested that someone within the Denver Mint had either gone rogue or was part of something much, much larger. Theories began flying, from secret societies embedded within the mint, to time travelers leaving breadcrumbs, to coded warnings about the future of global currency. Things got even weirder when the coin was put under X-ray fluorescence. It was then that the internal composition revealed another anomaly. The core of the penny, instead of being the usual zinc with a copper coating, contained traces of an unknown alloy that was lighter than aluminum but stronger than steel. No such material was documented in public use during the early 80s. When physicists from MIT and Caltech were brought in, they confirmed it was a synthetic compound previously only theorized in advanced aerospace design circles. This wasn't just a coin, it was a technological artifact. As the news spread, collectors and conspiracy theorists descended upon Denver in droves. Everyone wanted to know more about the reclusive Ronald Westley and how he came to possess such a coin. Neighbors recalled seeing trucks with government plates parked outside his house over the years. Others mentioned the strange hum that sometimes came from his basement. Then there was the incident in 1993, when the power grid in their block had gone out for 3 hours after what some described as a blue lightning bolt striking the property. At the time, it was written off as a transformer explosion. But now, everything was being re-examined. Ronald, as it turned out, had once worked at the Denver Mint. His employment file was sparse, but enough remained to confirm he had been a senior maintenance engineer from 1976 to 1983. No one remembered much about him other than that he kept to himself, worked the graveyard shift, and never spoke more than necessary. But now, his time there was being scrutinized under a microscope. A deep dive into Mint records uncovered missing inventory logs from a 2-week period in early 1981. Surveillance footage from that era no longer existed, and several key employees from that time were either deceased or untraceable. However, one former employee, a janitor named Ed Marley, came forward. In a televised interview, Ed claimed to have seen Ronald working late at night on machines that were not part of normal Mint operations. He described odd glowing lights and the faint sound of music, classical symphonies, emanating from deep within the Mint's basement levels, but it wasn't just Ed's memory that raised eyebrows. A month after his interview, he vanished. His apartment was found ransacked, and his phone, TV, and computer were all destroyed. No fingerprints. No signs of forced entry. The only item left untouched was a small notebook with the word Prometheus scrawled across the front. Inside were dozens of pages filled with what looked like schematics, written in a mix of English, Latin, and binary code. As interest in the coin exploded, the US government stepped in. The Department of the Treasury issued a vague statement denying any knowledge of the coin and dismissed the theories as entirely speculative. But within days of their announcement, the coin was confiscated by federal agents under a newly issued executive order related to artifacts of significant national security interest. But that wasn't the end. Before the coin was taken, a high-resolution 3D scan had been made by the Research Institute and shared among a small group of international coin experts. One of them, Dr. Isabel Marquez of the University of Salamanca, made a bold claim. She believed the inscriptions on the coin described a method for stabilizing global economies by decentralizing fiat systems using mineral-based standards. She argued that Ronald's coin wasn't just a warning, it was a solution. According to her translation, the coin acted as a physical ledger for a proposed currency system tied directly to rare earth metals. The symbols weren't decorative, they were keys. Each one aligned to mathematical models that could, if implemented, disrupt and then rebuild the monetary structures of the entire world. A simple penny had become the blueprint for an economic revolution. Then came the auction. In an unprecedented legal battle, the federal government attempted to retain control of the coin, but a lawsuit filed by the estate's executor argued that since the coin had been privately held and not listed as classified during Ronald's lifetime, it legally belonged to the estate. After months of litigation and intense public scrutiny, the Supreme Court ruled in favor of the estate. The coin was returned and immediately placed on the auction block through a private international bidding process held in Monaco. Bidders included sovereign wealth funds, tech billionaires, secretive banking families, and even nation-states operating through intermediaries. After 11 hours of bidding behind closed doors, the final hammer price was announced: $680 million. The buyer was never officially disclosed, but documents leaked weeks later suggested the coin had been acquired by a coalition of South American and African nations developing a new trade alliance independent of Western central banks. The coin, they believed, was more than a collector's item, it was a seed for transformation. Back in Denver, Ronald Wesley's old home was declared a historical site. The hidden room became a museum, and the neighborhood, once forgotten, turned into a pilgrimage site for coin collectors and truth-seekers alike. Every year, people gather on the anniversary of the coin's discovery to celebrate what they now call the cent revelation. And the mystery continues, because in one of Ronald's old notebooks, recovered by a local librarian who had befriended him decades earlier, a single sentence stood out, written in perfect cursive on the last page, one of 12. Each bears a code. When reunited, the vault shall open. Collectors and cryptographers around the world now believe that there are 11 more coins, scattered in unknown locations, each with its own enigma and power. Whether this is true or just another twist in an already unbelievable tale, no one can say for sure. What is certain, though, is this: The 1981 D1 cent coin changed the world. From a forgotten machinist's basement to the hands of global powers, it carried with it the weight of mystery, genius, and perhaps even a hidden message left by those who knew what was coming. So next time you find a penny on the ground, think twice before tossing it aside. You might just be holding a piece of history waiting to be uncovered, and that, my friends, is the story of how a 1981 D1 cent coin became worth $680 million, and why it might be only the beginning. Next, 2002 D1 cent USA coin, where history, mystery, and money collide in the most unexpected ways. Today's story takes us deep into the world of rare coins, where a seemingly ordinary piece of copper and zinc from 2002 would go on to ignite a worldwide frenzy, draw the attention of billionaire collectors, and even become the center of a criminal conspiracy stretching across decades. The story of the 2002 D1 cent coin that would one day be worth $399 million isn't just about money, it's about obsession, fate, and how one mistake can turn into the biggest numismatic treasure in modern history. It all began on an ordinary spring morning in Denver, Colorado, where the United States Mint facility buzzed with the usual activity. Thousands of freshly minted coins clattered down metal chutes, spinning and tumbling their way into circulation. But among the batch of 1 cent coins bearing the Denver Mint mark and the date 2002, there was one that would change everything. No one noticed it at first. It looked just like the others. It was thrown into a hopper, bagged with thousands of others, and shipped out to banks in the western region of the United States. It didn't stand out. Not yet. It wasn't until 2004 that the coin caught anyone's attention. A cashier at a gas station in Provo, Utah, spotted something odd as she counted her register. A penny that shimmered a little differently in the light, with finer details on Lincoln's profile than she'd ever seen. The coloration was slightly off, too, a subtle golden hue that contrasted with the typical reddish-brown of circulated copper-plated zinc. She tossed it into her pocket, thinking nothing of it beyond its curious look. That coin ended up in a jar in her basement, where it sat for nearly a decade. In 2013, her son, an amateur metal detectorist and coin enthusiast named Kevin Merritt, began sorting through the jar while helping his mom clean out old storage. He'd recently developed an interest in error coins, doubled dies, off-centers, and minting anomalies. He noticed the 2002 D cent immediately. It didn't fit with the others. Its weight felt different. Intrigued, Kevin brought it to a small coin shop in Salt Lake City for appraisal. The shop owner, an old-school collector named Marvin Russo, took one look and called in a favor from a friend in New York. Within days, the coin was shipped to a lab, where its metal composition was analyzed. The results stunned everyone. The coin was not made of the standard copper-plated zinc used for all post-1982 pennies. It was 95% gold alloy, an impossible composition for any legitimate cent minted in 2002. Somehow, this coin had been struck using a gold alloy blank, and not only that, but it had been pressed with precision matching the highest proof standards. Kevin was offered $50,000 on the spot. He turned it down. The coin had sparked a fire inside him, a desire to know how such a thing could have happened. He began a deep dive into mint records, shipment logs, and historical anomalies, going as far back as the 1970s. What he found only deepened the mystery. There was no record of gold blanks being in the Mint's inventory in 2002, especially not for cents. There were rumors, though, rumors of experimental planches, of rogue employees, of errors covered up and records destroyed. By 2015, word of the gold 2002 D cent had spread across collector forums and niche auction circles. The coin was nicknamed the Dragon Cent, both for its mythical value and the fact that the fine striations on Lincoln's bust appeared to resemble dragon scales under magnification. Conspiracy theories exploded. Some believed the coin was an elaborate hoax. Others thought it had been struck secretly by Mint employees as part of an underground operation. A former Mint worker named Alan Drayden claimed to have seen strange activity on the floor during a night shift in February 2002, extra security, locked doors, and blank shipments that never appeared in logs. In 2016, Kevin finally agreed to bring the coin to auction. It was evaluated by independent experts, confirmed as genuine, and the only known example of its kind. Bidding opened at $1 million. Within hours, it climbed to $12 million. A Saudi collector offered $25 million in private negotiation. But Kevin held out. He wasn't ready to let it go, not yet. Instead, he lent the coin to the Smithsonian for display, under tight security. The exhibit drew record crowds. People lined up for hours to glimpse the penny that had stunned the world. School groups visited. Historians debated. Scientists analyzed the metallurgical properties to try and trace its origin. And still, no one could definitively say how it had come into being. In 2018, a second twist shocked the numismatic community. An investigative journalist named Dana Rowe unearthed a sealed court document from a 2003 internal Mint investigation. The document referenced unauthorized experimental strikings and listed 6 employees under suspicion of having collaborated on illegal minting activities. One of those employees, Thomas Carville, had died in a car accident in late 2002 under circumstances that were never fully explained. His widow, when contacted by Rowe, refused to speak but sent an anonymous package containing a letter and a plastic coin flip. Inside was another 2002 D cent, visually identical to Kevin's coin. This second coin underwent analysis and revealed the same gold alloy composition. Suddenly, the story wasn't about a single miraculous mistake. It was about a pattern. A plan. A secret. The FBI reopened the case. The Mint launched an internal review of every experimental planchette ordered or produced between 1999 and 2003. Hundreds of man-hours were dedicated to combing through production files. A trail led to a contracting company in Nevada that supplied metal blanks for commemorative coins. The company's former owner, now retired in Belize, denied ever supplying gold blanks to the Mint. But anonymous sources suggested that gold had been mixed into zinc shipments as part of a money laundering scheme involving scrap metal. In 2019, a private auction house in Switzerland claimed to have sold a third specimen to a shadowy buyer from Singapore. No pictures of the coin were released. No certificates. No provenance. Kevin was furious. If there were more out there, it changed everything. The rarity, the value, the entire narrative. But try as he might, he couldn't verify the claim. The coin world became divided, those who believed there was only one genuine 2002 D gold cent, and those who believed there were more hiding in safes, vaults, and private collections. Kevin refused to sell. The offers kept coming. $60 million. $100 million. In 2020, a consortium of collectors from Europe and Asia made a record offer of $399 million, contingent on exclusive possession and non-disclosure. Kevin shocked the world again. He declined. He didn't want the money. He wanted the truth. As the pandemic swept across the globe, interest in coins surged. People trapped at home turned to collecting, and the legend of the 2002 D cent grew with each retelling. YouTube channels speculated. Podcasts dissected the conspiracy. Kevin was even offered a movie deal. Still, he held the coin, guarded it, studied it. He believed it held secrets no one yet understood. In 2022, he made one final push to solve the mystery. He worked with a forensic metallurgist and an AI lab to create a chemical fingerprint of the coin, comparing it to over 200 known gold sources. The closest match? A batch of South African Krugerrands seized in a customs operation in 2001 and never accounted for. How that gold ended up in a US Mint facility remains a question no one has answered. Then, in the summer of 2023, the unthinkable happened. Kevin vanished. His car was found on a cliffside road near the Rockies, door open, keys inside, and the coin gone. The media erupted. Was it a robbery? A kidnapping? A hoax? Some claimed he'd faked his own disappearance to escape with the coin and live in secrecy. Others said he'd finally been silenced. Weeks later, a video surfaced online. It showed Kevin, alive and calm, standing in front of a fireplace. He held the coin in his hand. He claimed to have discovered everything, the full truth, but said the world wasn't ready. That some knowledge wasn't meant to be unearthed. Then the video cut to black. It was deleted within hours, but copies had already spread. Since then, the coin's whereabouts remain unknown. Some say it's in a private vault beneath Zurich. Others say it was melted down to hide its trail. A few believe Kevin still walks among us, watching, waiting, but no matter where it is now, the story of the 2002 D1 coin has become more than a mystery. It's become a legend. A symbol of how even the smallest, most overlooked thing can be worth more than all the gold in the world, if the timing, the mystery, and the obsession align. And in the case of this coin, they did. A humble penny, born in obscurity, now valued at $399 million and etched forever into the annals of history. And maybe, just maybe, its story isn't over yet. Last 1992 1-cent USA coin, where we dive deep into the strangest, rarest, and most incredible discoveries in the world of coins and collectibles. Today, we are about to unfold one of the most astonishing tales in numismatic history. It's the kind of story that makes you double-check your pocket change, the kind that leaves you wondering what secrets lie in something as small and overlooked as a penny. This time, it's about the unassuming 1992 1-cent coin, a coin that should have meant almost nothing, but turned out to be worth a staggering $400 million, the largest known valuation for a modern 1-cent piece. Buckle up, because this story takes unexpected turns, dives into mystery, brushes against theft, government secrets, family curses, and finally ends in one of the most intense auctions ever recorded. And to think it all started with a mistake. Or maybe, it wasn't a mistake at all. The story begins in the quiet suburb of Greenvale, Ohio. A retired postmaster named Alice Dunford had a habit of collecting coins, not in any serious way, just a tin box under his bed filled with spare change he'd kept from the post office over the years. He never looked at them closely, never hunted for errors, didn't attend auctions or read coin collector magazines. He just liked the feel of coins, the idea that every coin had traveled a path, touched hands, maybe even witnessed history. But there was one coin he did remember. A 1992 penny with a strange surface that felt slightly different to the touch, as if the metal had cooled too quickly during minting. It had a brightness to it, even decades later. He remembered putting it in his box just because something about it felt off. Fast forward to 2024. Alice had long since passed, and his granddaughter Myra Dunford was sorting through his estate. She found the coin box, almost threw it out, but decided to glance through it first. She was no coin collector either, but one coin caught her eye, the 1992 penny, still unusually shiny, with letters that looked slightly closer to the rim than normal. It felt heavier than a regular penny, and its color was just a shade different. Curious, she took a photo of it and posted it to a coin collecting forum, asking if anyone had seen one like it before. The post exploded. Within hours, numismatists from around the world were flooding her inbox. Private collectors offered her tens of thousands of dollars sight unseen. One anonymous message simply read, "That's not supposed to exist. Don't trust anyone. Keep it hidden." Myra, understandably overwhelmed, reached out to the local university's history department, who directed her to Dr. Emil Vostrick, a reclusive numismatics expert who hadn't appeared in public in over 10 years. Dr. Vostrick was immediately intrigued. He insisted on seeing the coin in person, and when Myra arrived, he examined it under high magnification. What he found stunned him into silence. The coin bore characteristics of both the 1992 Close AM and an ultra-rare unconfirmed experimental alloy only rumored to exist. The font spacing was inconsistent with the standard minting dies, and the weight was precisely 3.11 grams, typical for older bronze cents, not modern copper-plated zinc. There were traces of platinum and palladium alloyed into the copper, an impossible composition for the year. Vostrick locked the door to his lab and turned off his phone. He explained to Myra that in the early 1990s, the US Mint had quietly partnered with a defense contractor under the guise of testing new materials for long-term coin durability. The secret project, codenamed Red Echo, was never supposed to reach public circulation. Several prototype coins were minted with experimental metals, using altered dyes, then melted down. Except someone, somehow, had slipped one into the postal coin stream. Myra's grandfather had unknowingly protected one of the rarest coins in existence for more than 30 years. The implications were staggering. Not only was the coin historically significant, but the materials used were now known to be highly valuable due to their industrial and defense applications. Vostrick estimated the intrinsic metal value alone at over $800,000. But the rarity, story, and secret government involvement pushed the coin's collector value into stratospheric territory. Word got out. Myra had tried to keep it quiet, but someone on the forum leaked the image. A renowned collector from Dubai offered $2 million, no questions asked. Then another from Hong Kong upped it to $3.8 million. It became an international bidding war, and Myra hadn't even decided if she wanted to sell. That's when the trouble started. Myra came home one evening to find her apartment ransacked. The coin, which she kept in a small velvet pouch inside a wall safe, was untouched, but she felt watched. Anonymous letters began arriving, warning her not to trust anyone, not even Vostrick. One note was just a piece of a map, with a single phrase scrawled across it. There were 6. Desperate for answers, Myra and Vostrick dug deeper into Project Red Echo. What they found was chilling. 6 prototype pennies had been minted in total. 1 had been destroyed in testing. 4 were believed to be in a locked Federal Reserve vault, never to be seen again. The 6th was unaccounted for. The one in Myra's possession. The story made national news. A reporter from the Financial Tribune broke the story wide open. 1992 penny could be worth $400 million. The article detailed the coin's supposed origins, experimental composition, and the mysterious circumstances surrounding the project. Coin enthusiasts, collectors, journalists, and government officials all wanted a piece of the story. Offers climbed. $20 million. $75 million. A private museum in Switzerland offered $140 million and full security transport. But Myra still wasn't ready. She started receiving threats. One night, her car was tampered with. She survived only because she noticed the brake fluid leaking before getting in. Vostrick urged her to transfer the coin into a secure facility, and together they coordinated with the Smithsonian, which agreed to temporarily house it in a secure vault while its authenticity was verified by international experts. That's when the mysterious bidder appeared, identified only as Mr. Kepler. He arranged a private meeting with Myra through an encrypted messaging app. He claimed to represent an organization older than any government, with roots in preserving humanity's technological artifacts. He didn't care about the coin's value or rarity. He wanted it because of what it represented. He offered Myra $400 million to be deposited in a Swiss account immediately upon handoff, under one condition: she could never speak of the coin again. Myra was tempted, but deeply suspicious. She declined. The final chapter began with an auction, the most secretive, high-security numismatic auction ever held. Only 5 participants were allowed to bid, and the location was undisclosed until hours before the event. The auction took place in a private bank vault in Luxembourg. Security was tighter than a state summit. Bidding opened at $50 million and climbed rapidly. $150 million. $260 million. $310 million. The final bid came from a completely unknown buyer, an entity registered as Sable Crown Holdings. The final hammer price, $401.25 million. The buyer requested the coin be sealed in a vacuum-safe titanium container and shipped to an undisclosed research facility in Greenland. Speculation ran wild. Some believed the coin was going to be reverse-engineered for its mysterious alloy. Others claimed it held microscopic data encoded in its surface. Some even believed it was extraterrestrial in origin, hidden in plain sight by an agency testing public reaction to impossible artifacts. Myra disappeared from public view shortly after the sale. She declined all interview requests, deactivated her social media, and reportedly moved to a private estate in Nova Scotia. Vostrick vanished as well. The university claimed he had taken extended leave, but rumors circulated that he had accepted a position with a clandestine research lab connected to the European Space Agency. The coin itself hasn't been seen since. The story of the 1992 1-cent coin, worth $400 million, remains one of the most extraordinary tales in collectible history. Whether you believe it was an experimental minting accident, a secret military project, or something even stranger, one thing is certain: it's not just a coin. It's a symbol. A tiny, copper-colored key to a much larger mystery. And maybe, just maybe, there are still 5 more out there. So the next time you get change from the store, take a closer look at that penny. Check the year. Check the spacing between the letters. Feel its weight. You never know. You just might be holding the next $1 million mystery in the palm of your hand. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this unbelievable true story, stay tuned because more coin legends, numismatic mysteries, and hidden treasures are on the way. Until next time, keep your eyes open and your pennies close. You never know which one could change your life forever.